So the photosynthesis takes place in plant cells, and specifically, plant cells have mesophyll cells, and each mesophyll cell has about 30 to 40 chloroplasts. So this here is a chloroplast. It has the outer membrane, the intermembrane space, and the inner membrane. In the inner membrane are the granum, the thylakoid, and the stroma. So granum is basically a stack of thylakoid cells, and in the thylakoid membrane is where light reactions takes place. Light reaction is just one part of the photosynthesis, and here in stroma takes place the Calvin cycle, which is the second part of photosynthesis.
So today we'll be focusing on the light reaction section of photosynthesis. So the first step in the light reaction is the striking of a pigment molecule in the light harvesting complex of a photon. So a photon hits this pigment molecule, causes one electron to raise its energy state, and it starts to have a lot of potential energy. So this electron starts passing on from pigment molecule to pigment molecule until it finally reaches a special pair of chlorophyll A molecules called P680 molecules, and they raise the electron energy level and passes it to the primary electron acceptor, which is in the reaction center complex. So after the pair of electrons from the P680 chlorophyll A molecules passes to the primary electron acceptor, they are now negatively charged. And so to replace their missing electrons, we have to split water. This is where water comes into photosynthesis. As the cell splits water, it becomes oxygen to gas and becomes hydrogen ions, hydrogen positive ions. The electrons from the hydrogen molecule, hydrogen atoms go into these to replace the missing electrons, and this hydrogen ions start to accumulate on this side of the thylakoid membrane, which is the inner thylakoid membrane space, and the oxygen 2 gas is released as a waste product of photosynthesis.
So the next step is the linear electron flow. So basically, in photosystem 2, after the electron goes into the primary acceptor, it goes down a series of changes through proteins called electron transport chains. So it goes from PQ to the cytochrome complex to PC, all the while hydrogen atoms are produced elsewhere in the cell. So after it goes to the PC, it goes into light hits other pigment chlorophyll A molecules in the photosystem 1, and then through a transfer of energy goes into the P700, which is right here, and then so these electrons will go into they're going into the primary acceptor, where it's accepted by NADP plus, and NADPH is made outside in the stroma. So this is the cyclical electron flow where photosystem 2 is not involved, and it's only the photosystem 1. So basically, it's a never-ending cycle between the primary acceptor in photosystem 1, the FD protein, the cytochrome complex, and the PC protein, and ATP is produced passively outside, and it's only the photosystem 1 as the light hits the pigment molecules. There's a transfer of energy into the P700, and the electrons go into the primary acceptor, and they go down a never-ending cycle. And there's no NADPH involved. There's no NADPH production.
So as the electron transfer chain is happening, the chloroplast also has active transport occurring from the stroma to the thylakoid space. There are there's more of hydrogen ions on the thylakoid space and less hydrogen ions on the stroma space. However, this is active transport because the movement of hydrogen ions is against the gradient, where it's moving from less hydrogen ions to more hydrogen ions, and therefore this is active transport. This will all come and create a result of ATP produced later in the cycle.
The electron comes from the electron transport chain and goes to the FD protein and into the NADP plus reductase, and NADPH plus is made outside in the stroma. NADPH is made outside the stroma. And it's made with the combination of NADP plus and H plus.
So the final step of the light reactions is all those hydrogen ions that have been accumulating in the inner space of the thylakoids will now passively transport through the ATP synthase and facilitate the production of ATP by phosphorylizing ADP, which means that you add an organic phosphate group to ADP and creates ATP in the stroma. Now, we saw that NADPH is also made in the stroma, so NADPH and ATP will now go to the Calvin cycle, which is occurring in the stroma, which is the next and last step of photosynthesis.